This week is National Skills Week, and it's an opportunity for us to showcase the vet sector and the relationship the AIS has built with TAFE. And tonight we're very lucky to have Leonie Stanfield online, a very experienced career practitioner with over 30 years experience, a Masters of Career Development, a graduate certificate in online learning, and a Bachelor of Social Work. So very, very experienced. I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm going to hand you over to Leonie and let her run through the program. Thank you.
Thanks very much, John. Well, welcome everyone watching today. And I'm sure you're interested in hearing a little bit more about VET and will it actually be right for you. And as John introduced me, I am one of the career practitioners with the Career Practitioner Referral Network. And I am looking forward to talking about VET actually, because I've worked in this area for about 20 years. And yeah, it's a really interesting space. And my hope is you haven't tuned in because you're interested in vet science. Crossed fingers. So I'm going to take you through a presentation to help focus attention and ask you some key questions. And one of the things I'm wondering is, given that we do have so many education options available, how do you know which ones are actually going to give you the best chance of future career success? Interesting question. And I think because career success is different for each of us, what it looks like might be really dependent on your definition. So it can be hard to work out what are the best career options, what are the best education options. And let's have an investigation to see why that actually matters. And Mark McCrindle, I don't know if you're aware of McCrindle research. You'll see Mark McCrindle on TV from time to time. He talks about preparing for the world of work and whether we're already in the world of work and we're wanting to make a career change or we're looking for a next career after sport. It's important to think about how we upskill and how we retrain. And so a school leaver today is predicted to have 18 jobs across 6 careers in their lifetime. Very different to when I went to school. And the average tenure in a job is less than 4 years, 3.3 years. So we are looking to make career decisions frequently, and we're looking to evaluate education options frequently too. So what do we need to do to work out which options are actually going to be the best for us? My suggestion is that there are 3 questions you can consider. And I'm going to present 3 questions here today. And hopefully by the end of this session, you'll have a better understanding of how to tackle those questions. So first, it really helps if you know what education options are available. And sometimes we don't. Sometimes we make assumptions about what's out there without really knowing, without really having done our research. So what education options are actually available for you? Which ones will lead towards your career aspirations? So some will be a better introduction, will better equip you for where you're wanting to head, and it's good to know which ones those are. Industry supports and requires some qualifications and some certifications more than others. And then finally, which ones actually support your current sporting career goals? Because at the end of the day, what you're doing education-wise needs to be able to fit with the rest of your life and your career goals now. So let's take some time and have a think about how do we tackle this. So what I want to ask you first is, what comes to mind when you think about education? 2 very different images there. I'm wondering, is our first impression actually the most accurate and the most useful perspective? And often our views about education are coloured by our experiences and the experience of those around us and those we know. So we've developed beliefs and attitudes and formed opinions based on our experiences. And so we are going to have come to education with already some preferences and some preconceived ideas. So let's have a think about, when it comes to vocational education and training, how can we make sure that our beliefs and attitudes and opinions are actually useful for us. Interestingly, it's National Skills Week, and as John mentioned, we're promoting the importance of skills. Vocational education and training is actually oriented towards providing skills for a particular occupation. It's a pathway into a particular occupation or employment. And plenty of people take that pathway. So 1.4 million local and international students choose to study in Australia's universities. They pursue a range of different courses and areas of study. 4.2 million students are enrolled in VET, which is vocational education training, nationally recognised courses. And interestingly, 23.4% of Australia's population, aged between 15 to 64, has participated in a recognised vocational education training course. I think one of the important parts when we're thinking about education is to remember that learning by doing is as important as academic learning. They're both critical. And in fact, given the way our world of work is really changing and quite rapidly, being skilled and ready to make changes and to adapt to the workplace changes is very important. Absolutely as important as academic learning is to provide the foundational knowledge and underpinnings that help us to develop those skills. So a strong vocational education and learning training sector is really, really important. And it plays a key role in us upskilling and learning new skills to change careers throughout our lives. So here's two very general views about higher education and vocational education training. And I did this deliberately because I think there are some labels that we put on different types of learning, and I'm not sure that it's actually as simple as just labeling learning. Absolutely, these things are true. Absolutely, higher education is more academic oriented and vocational education training is more practically oriented. Absolutely, there's a theoretical underpinning and foundation that goes with higher education. But that doesn't mean that that's not true in vocational. But vocational is very definitely about applying that theoretical learning. You might think of higher education as being more around sometimes macro skills, or if you think about, maybe the broad area of something like communication versus vocational education training. If you were getting training on how to present and speak, then maybe there's some micro skills around that. We often tend to think that higher education has a broad focus and vocational education training has a narrower focus. Again, sometimes true, sometimes not. A general application of learning versus a very specific application of learning. And again, we'll see that sometimes that's true, but not necessarily always. I'm just wondering how that sits with your initial impressions when you think of higher education, university education versus vocational education and training. The boundaries are definitely blurring. So you'll find that vocational education can take place at any part within the system. So post-secondary, straight after school, you can head into a TAFE or a registered training organisation. You can undertake vocational education training. But you can also undertake vocational education training after participating in the higher education sector as well. And the apprenticeship and traineeship system is another part of learning vocational skills, learning on the job as well as off the job. So you'll see that a number of universities are starting to tailor the courses more specifically for occupations. A number of TAFEs and vocational education providers are broadening out their offering. So we're not seeing the huge divide that there was. There's much more blurring of lines. And education it's hard about learning. And one of the questions for each of us to consider is, well, how do we actually learn best? What is going to be the best for us at a particular point in time? So we'll have a think about how do you decide what might be best at a particular time. Before we dive into that, a quick poll. So, can you think back to a time when you wanted to learn something new? And very quickly, which of these things did you do first? Was it look around for all the information and knowledge? Was it actually watch someone doing it? Was it actually just let me get in and do it, give it a go myself first? Or was it absolutely all of the above? You know, I don't presume to know what your first intention might have been and which way you tackle things. But I do know that we're all different and we all have different preferences. And some people will absolutely dive in and want to get their hands on things and get in and do it. And then maybe come back to finding out the knowledge. And other people won't even touch things until they have actually researched and done some knowledge. But at the end of the day, we probably do all of the above. It's just that we might prefer to do them in a slightly different order or in a slightly different way. And so that's why there's a good thing that we do have a variety of ways to learn. We do have an academic-oriented form of learning, which is generally more higher education. We have a more skills, hands-on, real-world contextualised learning in the workplace, which is often more vocational education and training. So have a think about which learning do you tend to prefer. And just to give you an example, I think, as we think about the fact that academic and theoretical learning is absolutely integrated with practical learning, I've just picked an example that most athletes will be familiar with. And you can see here that the top graph is really representing there's a whole theoretical foundation of research and understanding that forms the principles that make up how we implement periodisation, how we put together a plan. There's a whole range of expert knowledge around that area, which I certainly don't have. There's another piece, though, that takes that expert knowledge and that understanding of the theoretical framework and places it into what does that look like in practice? How does that actually mean you've broken up your week? How does it actually mean you've broken up your month? How does it actually mean you've broken up your pre-competition phase, your yearly phase? So someone who writes that program is applying a whole range of knowledge. And in some cases, you'll find that some people have a generalised enough knowledge so they have a bit of all of this. Some people will have dived in and been more expert at certain aspects at actually writing the program or more expert at the research behind it. But either way, both types of learning are really important and are not really easily, I think dividing a line between them doesn't always help. It's actually about how do you integrate these. But certainly some people will spend more time applying learning and some people will spend more time in a theoretical base. Again, what's your preference? So as we think about this, you have potentially a buffet of education opportunities available to you. And the buffet just seems to be getting bigger and bigger. It really does. And sometimes too much choice is actually harder than not a lot of choice. And so too many choices can be a bit overwhelming. My suggestion is if you know how to choose, that's going to make this job of dealing with a lot of choice easier. So what we want to do is to recognise potentially that there's no one right choice necessarily or completely wrong choices. There might be better choices than others. And absolutely, sometimes we're tempted to make the right choice or the better choice over another choice. But at different times, you might actually choose different things. So what does that mean for you with education? What it does really mean is that we do have to come back to these questions and say, if we know what is in the buffet, if we know what is available, then that can help us make some decisions. If we know which ones are going to lead towards what we want to do, that will help. And if we know which ones support our current career goals, that's going to be important too. So thinking about which of the vocational education training options that are available to you, the good news is that you've got a lot of support to help you understand what is available. And I've just put on the screen an excerpt from one of the flyers that's available from the TAFE AIS, the network that's part of the Elite Athlete Education Network. There's a TAFE component of that as well. It's not just higher education. So there is information available for you through the EAN, through the Education Network, to be able to work out which options might actually be suitable for you. So I really encourage you to take advantage of the resources that you've got here with a network, and you can see, you can access information about that on the AIS website. You can talk to specific advisors from particular TAFEs and universities that can give you some really good insights into what options are available. So there's no reason to not research and to not spend some time thinking about what sort of options are out there for me. You've also got your own research that you can do. And I've just included 3, and there are many more sites that you can use, but I've included 3 that are pretty useful sites to get a sense of understanding more about vocational education training options. The Skills One TV, actually are the initiators sponsoring National Skills Week. It's their drive to help people understand what vocational education is about, to promote skill development. And they use their website as well as the activities for National Skills Week. They have some fabulous videos and interviews with people who've undertaken and are undertaking vocational education training courses. So it's a great way to see the scope of what vocational education and training can cover and how people find that experience. So if you like watching interviews, that's a great site. The government has its myskills.gov.au. That's another really useful source of information about courses that are available, about industries. It gives you the opportunity to do lots of research yourself there. And there is another site that I think is hugely helpful as well, and that's called AA Pathways, and it stands for Australian Apprenticeship Pathways. But it's more than just an apprenticeship site. It has some great insight into the vocational education sector broadly. It also has links to its own YouTube channel with interviews, and it has lots of information about what pathways, what qualifications lead you into particular roles in industry. So again, you can do some research on your own that is really helpful around that too. What about answering the question of which education options actually lead towards your career aspirations? And I reckon that there are 2 challenges here for people, and I see this quite a lot. As I talk to people, I see some people that are really not quite sure about what they should be, and in their words, almost should be aiming for, or what they even want to aim for beyond sport. So sometimes it's not been high on the priority list. It just hasn't been something to think about. And then the closer it comes to, I guess, making transitions, people start to think about, oh, well, actually, what else might I be wanting to do? What career is my next career? Or what career do I want to be developing as I'm continuing my sporting career? So it's really hard if you're not quite sure what that is. And then the other people actually know what they want to do, but they're just not quite sure which is going to be the best way to get there. And for both of these cases, you've got opportunities with your AW&E managers who are there to support you and who have a wealth of experience to tap into. In their knowledge of a range of athletes' journeys, they've answered and dealt with so many different issues that are common that they're a great resource to go to. They have a good understanding from a perspective of career generally, and they can also give you a referral to a specialist career advisor. So, one of my colleagues in the Career Practitioner Referral Network, this is what we do. We love talking to people about what they're interested in, what they're thinking about next, how they might get clearer about what they could be. We love talking to them and hearing their stories about where they're heading and why that's important and which options might be the best for them to get to where they want to go. So please take advantage of using the network that you already have to access that advice. And your AW&E manager can refer you into a career practitioner. So please talk to them about that. And then if you're wondering what education options are going to best support my current sporting career goals, which is a critical thing to be considering, just remember that again, the advisors with the Elite Athlete TAFE network can help you and can talk to you about how flexible the vocational education and training options can be. And you might be surprised. Sometimes we make assumptions that certain courses won't accommodate what we need. It's always best to talk to someone about that and to see what's possible. So again, please do your research and take advantage of the support options you've got. I should mention, I'm going to go back to the education options too. The other thing that's important to think about is you will know people potentially in the field you want to work in, perhaps already. And you may well have already spoken to them about which education options are important. And that's a useful source of information. But remember, it's one source of information. If you can find more people who are currently working in that space or are currently employing people in the industry and occupation you want to go into, and if you can find out from them what qualifications they see as most valuable, then that's another useful piece of information. And the career practitioners can help guide you with specific tools and processes. Something called informational interviewing is a method we use to help people do their research. So it really is important to do some research so you are best informed when you start to make decisions. And finally, I wanted to finish with a slide that won't mean anything to anyone else here, but it means a lot to me. This is a program that I worked on for 14 years in Canberra. It's groups each year of elite, we call them elite in the apprentice world, but they are top apprentices and trainees from around the country. Some of them are national winners or state winners of awards, but they're all top performers that were selected to be part of a career development program that took them to the Canberra and actually took them onto the AIS campus where we used the facilities as a residential program there. And the great thing about this group is that it reminded me how much careers are about experimenting and reinvention. Because I can tell you from the over 250 people that went through that program over the years I ran it, I had people moving from refrigeration to stockbroking. I had people moving from industrial science and processing through to teaching, from fitness instructing through to artist, from electrician through to actor, and now marriage celebrant. The stories are just really, really incredible. And these are people that took on a trade, a skill. Some of them started at uni and then decided that they needed the practical skills and went and got an apprenticeship after completing some or all of their uni. Most of them started on the job, completing an apprenticeship, and then many of them went on to uni to continue to develop their learning. But all of their stories stay with me, and it reminds me how much we are going to be learning forever in our careers. The moment you stop learning is the moment you stop being challenged and growing. So vocational education training is going to be a part of your ongoing career development at some point in some way. I don't know where that will be and how that will be. You're best placed to decide that. But I do know that it offers a wonderful opportunity to keep reinventing your career and making the contribution that you want to. So thanks for tuning in and finding out a bit more about VET and if it's right for you. And please follow up. If you have questions, follow up with your AW&E manager. Follow up with the Career Referral Practitioner Referral Network too. Ask about that. And I look forward to either meeting some of you for a conversation as a career practitioner, or certainly seeing you achieve your education and learning goals as you make the choices that are right for you. So thanks very much.
Well, Leonie, I love your practical solution-focused approach, and I do know about your Young Leaders program, having had an athlete in there, and his journey has been amazing ever since. He still raves about it, his time down at the AIS and in that program. A couple of things I wanted to just highlight again to everyone was the growing TAFE network that the AIS is building a relationship with and the opportunities that provides. I love the fact that you pointed out Skills One TV and their website and the myskills.gov.au, because I think they're both fantastic resources for people to have a look at. And the fact that, you might not know where you want to go or what you want to do, but I think if you get on the journey, that's the thing. I think it'll start to unfold for you. And there's no such thing as a failure. If you go and do something and it doesn't turn out to be right, well, you've learned a lesson in that as well. So I really love that practical approach that you've given. I just wanted to wrap it up by saying I was just looking at your career tip that you have on your profile, and it's when you need to adapt your expectations, attitudes and behaviour, you learn more about yourself, your skills, your strengths and your story and what matters to you. And I think that's a great way to finish off. So thank you again, Leonie, and I hope everyone enjoyed the presentation and got something from it. Thank you.